Oh no, Bladewing's back, and this time he's a Deathless Tyrant. Let's do a $70 budget commander deck. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm fascinated with graveyard interactions, and our boy Deathwing returns with yet another powerful build-around effect that's perfect for a budget deck. Let's read the card, but first consider subscribing to my channel. I'm just an ordinary average guy out here trying to make my way in a hostile world, but I like building decks you can afford. I enjoy inspiring, entertaining, and getting a warm feeling when you gently depress the like button and give Eskimo kisses to the subscribe button. Bladewing, Deathless Tyrant, 5 black and a red for a legendary creature dragon skeleton that's a 6/6 with flying and haste. Whenever Bladewing Deathless Tyrant deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, for each creature card in your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie creature knight with menace. I love the art on this thing. Huge, skeletal dragon raising armies of menacing zombies. Alright, so first things first, Bladewing's a bit vulnerable. He has haste, so we can bang in as soon as he comes down, but if somebody has a Swords to Plowshares or some removal, our strategy breaks down. So we want to include some Reanimator flavor and some other win conditions. Secondly, Double Strike is really good on a combat damage trigger, so we can include some options to double our damage for token generation. Thirdly, Dredge is also really good, and we have a few sources we can include. And last, we want to maximize our odds of getting creatures into the graveyard. So let's use creatures as much as possible to accomplish our ramp, draw, and everything else. Self-mill and discard are also solid strategies, along with a few wheels. Alright, so we talked a little bit about Bladewing being a bit vulnerable, so let's toss in a Daring Fiend Bonder. This guy's coming out of Ikoria and he's kicking butt. This fella's easy to get into the graveyard, and for 2 mana we can give Bladewing Indestructible. We also have a whole bunch of Reanimator creatures. Hell's Caretaker can get a fat beast out of the yard and puts himself in there for Bladewing. Phyrexian Delvers enter the battlefield effect, gets us a big monster out of the yard. Null Priest of Oblivion. This is a sleeper card in Vampire decks. It's an efficient turn 2 play, or it's a late game Reanimator spell. Doom Necromancer, I always feel bad for this poor guy, but that's the life he chose. You know, get in the coffin, buddy. So we also want some ways to tutor cards into the graveyard with Violent Tumor or Regalore Mage. These are both great cards. Violent Tumor's just looking at his hands. He's like, where'd I get all this red stuff? And you got the old standbys of Reanimator budget decks, Buried Alive and Unmarked Grave. Unmarked Grave cannot get a legendary creature. Just keep that in the back of your head, okay? Alright, so we don't want to rely on Bladewing getting in there and knocking people out with commander damage. We need alternate win conditions. So Sir Conrad the Grim is always a bomb in a self-mill Reanimator deck. This guy has a ton of text on him, and it's everything that we want to do with Bladewing. The Grey Merchant of Asphodel. I refuse to call this guy Gary. He can be a real problem for our opponents. We have a few mass reanimation spells like Living Death and Twilight's Call. If Bladewing gets removed, we can cast these in a combination with Gary or Sir Conrad. We drain the table and get ourselves ahead. And we have Ayara, First of Lochthwain, and Witty Roastmaster. These can also benefit from this interaction, but both also trigger off the massive amounts of zombies we're making with Bladewing. I love how in the art for Witty Roastmaster, he's just committing arson on somebody's face. I mean, that's Magic the Gathering right there. Dreadhound is another option, although it's a bit costly at 6 mana, and it's kind of a vanilla creature. Alright, it's double strike time. We got Lizard Blades. This is underrated equipment. I spec'd on this, and I bought a whole bunch at like 35 cents, and now it's up to 36 cents. You know, listen, I'm gonna buy a new house. But it's also a creature, so it's okay if it goes to our graveyard. We also have Wrecking Ogre. This is a weird, overcosted card, but it does do the job in a budget deck. This can be a surprise commander damage finisher if we've already hit something with Bladewing. There are a couple of Dredge creatures that are really great in a deck like this where we want stuff going to the graveyard. We got Stinkweed Imp. It's 2 and a black for a creature imp, 1/2 with flying. Whenever it deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature. Okay, great. But it has Dredge 5. If you would draw a card, instead you may put exactly 5 cards from the top of your library in your graveyard. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. Otherwise, draw a card. Dakmor Salvage is another great option with a low opportunity cost, as it's just a land. And then we have about a dozen self-milling creatures. Highlights include Angel of Suffering. This is a really weird card, but I think this is the deck for it. And you got your Doom Whisperer. What'd you say? Oh, Doom. I couldn't hear you. You were whispering the whole time, brother. Angel of Suffering is 3 black for a creature Nightmare Angel to 5/3 with flying. If damage would be dealt to you, prevent that damage and mill twice that many cards. Pretty good in this deck. And you got Stitcher Supplier, classic self-mill card, along with Milliken, which can ramp us just a little bit. I want to mention here that Stitcher Supplier looks a lot like one of my ex-girlfriends, and I think she's the inspiration for this art. And weirdly enough, I look exactly like Magus of the Wheel. He's the old Magus creepy guy. We also have Runehorn Hellkite. This is great in this deck. We really just want him in the graveyard so we can exile him and then wheel and deal. Now, Imposing Grandeur, this is a card we can really break symmetry on. So it's 4 and a red for a sorcery. Each player may discard their hand and draw cards equal to the greatest mana value of a commander they own on the battlefield or in the command zone. And look at these guys, they're having a great time, they're drinking wine. Now, we are definitely the only wild and crazy guys running a commander that costs 7 mana, so we can really break symmetry on this card and capitalize on it in a way that probably none of the other decks in the pod can. Now, my buddy Andrew suggested we go full Night Tribal, but I'm not going to do that. But I did include just one zombie payoff. Death Baron covers our commander because he's also a skeleton warrior. He's a skeleton warrior. Nope, that's fake news. He's a dragon skeleton. I just checked the card again, okay? Everybody calm down. So that's it. Check out the Decklist, goldfish it. It pretty routinely can pump out a ton of zombos on turn 6 or 7. Has a lot of resilience due to the graveyard synergies. You can even let Bladewing go to the yard if he gets destroyed. It's probably easier to reanimate him and cast him again from the command zone for 9 mana. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a big, fat, stinky comment, and I'll talk to you all soon. Happy reanimating. This is Nikki G from Better Commander, signing off.